He whose name sleeps in my heart, and there it is. It's apart my eyes' windows to the beauty of your name. 7 letters that
Good morning, dear viewers of IMAM HUSSEIN TV. Assalamu alaikum. It's Monday morning, and today will be our last episode of the season for Muharram and Safar.
Yes, it will be, but rest assured we will definitely be back very soon with your weekly dose of morning Baraka.
Okay, we've really had a truly inspiring and commemorative Muharram and Safar here at IMAM HUSSEIN TV. We would like to thank each and every one of our viewers, whether you've stayed with us for the whole duration of Muharram and Safar, or you've tuned in briefly to possibly catch just a couple of segments within the show, namely, for example, the cute mini Hussainis.
Oh, bless. We are happy that you tuned in, and inshallah we hope to continue the Baraka of Imam Hussein TV mornings. So do catch us in a couple of weeks, because we will be coming to your screens with a new jam-packed show.
Yeah, so for the last time, let's begin the Baraka this morning with Brother Mustafa Ali, who will once again be blessing our studio with a beautiful recitation of the Holy Quran and a verse from Surah Kahf.
We also have Brother Ibrahim Ansari in the couch with our daily du'as. Today we will be looking at Ziyarah of Abbas. Really looking forward to that.
We're also bringing you live footage from those on pilgrimage at this moment, taking part in the Arba'in walk and giving you all an insight, just in case you can't make it there this year. Right after that, we have the poetry and recitation segment. Usually I'd either have Nouri Sardar or Imran Datu. Today I have Nouri Sardar back on the couch. Alhamdulillah, really looking forward to spend some time with him to discuss his wonderful poetry.
Absolutely. Look forward to that as well. We have Sister Masuma Jaffer afterwards, answering your personal questions and queries with dear Masuma. Looking forward to that as well.
Yep. We also have the young girl who has been embarking on a journey to really uncover the rituals of Muharram and Safar from a youth perspective.
And finally, we also have Sayyid Mohsin Shah on the couch with your fit questions and queries.
So right now we're giving you the opportunity to deliver a personal ziyarah to any member of your deceased family or friends. More details with our colleague in Karbala, Brother Ali.
بأبي أنت وأمي يا أبا عبد الله بأبي أنت وأمي يا أبا عبد الله.
We are born with the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We learn to crawl, to walk, to read, and to write. We live our lives. We donate to humanity, we donate to society, and we donate to Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Before you know it, we die. We leave this life and we move on to the next journey. Morning Baraka is offering you the chance to help your loved ones on their journey. We are taking down names of your loved ones who are no longer with you to dedicate a recitation of the holy Ziyarah of Imam Hussein to them. Our reciters will recite a Ziyarah Ashura on your loved one's behalf, right here from the holy land of Karbala and in front of the holy shrine of Abi Abdullah al-Hussein, Abu Abdullah. We understand the pain of losing a loved one and wanting to do the best for their akhirah. That is why Morning Baraka is giving you the opportunity to give comfort to those who have moved on. All we want you to do is to send in the names of your loved ones, family members, neighbors, friends, associates, and we will recite and donate to their akhirah only on Morning Baraka here on Imam Hussein TV 3.
If you would like to participate in this initiative, please send the name of the marhum you would like the ziyarah read for to either Morning Baraka at imamhussein.tv or comment your marhumeen's names on our Instagram page at Imam Hussein 3 TV, and we will make sure this gift reaches them.
Yes, welcome dear viewers, and of course for the very last time during this series of the Morning Baraka Muharram special, we're going to be listening as ever to Mustafa Al-Ali, who very beautifully kicks off our program for today. So Mustafa, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
How are you today?
Alhamdulillah.
Mustafa, it's been quite a journey with you. We've gone through many different chapters in the Holy Quran. So, today's chapter you're going to be focusing on chapter 18, verse 107. So I believe that's Surah Al-Kahf.
Yeah.
Just before we do, actually, I mean, I'd love to get your not opinion, but I'd love to get your thoughts on how it's been over the last couple of episodes. And essentially, we've heard you every single episode. Just to get your thoughts on how it's been so far.
Alhamdulillah, everything's been going well. It's been a pleasure to be here, to recite here. Alhamdulillah.
Brilliant.
It's a bigger pleasure for us, really.
Yes.
Mashallah, you're amazing reciter.
Definitely. So for the very last time, we very much look forward to Mustafa Ali.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات كانت لهم جنات الفردوس نزلا. خالدين فيها لا يبغون عنها حولا. قل لو كان البحر مدادا لكلمات ربي لنفد البحر قبل أن تنفد كلمات ربي ولو جئنا بمثله مددا. قل لو كان البحر مدادا لكلمات ربي لنفد البحر قبل أن تنفد كلمات ربي لنفد البحر قبل أن تنفد كلمات ربي ولو جئنا بمثله مددا. قل لو كان البحر مدادا لكلمات ربي لنفد البحر قبل أن تنفد كلمات ربي ولو جئنا بمثله مددا. قل إنما أنا بشر مثلكم يوحى إلي أنما إلهكم إله واحد. فمن
كان يرجو لقاء ربه فليعمل عملا صالحا ولا يشرك بعبادة ربه أحدا. صدق الله العلي العظيم.
Many thanks, Mustafa Al-Ali, for the final time. Unfortunately, it's the final time that we can listen to your beautiful voice when it comes to the rendition of the Holy Quran. In this segment of Morning Barakah, we're looking into daily du'as, and that's looking into actually a deep dive into the ziyaras and the du'as and the supplications associated with the months of Muharram and Safar, specifically the events of Ashura and Arba'een. So we're looking at all of the supplications and how to really direct your conversations to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through supplications.
It's been an amazing series, I think, and there's a lot to learn. So if any of the viewers have missed any of the programs, do catch up on our social media. And if you'd like to introduce
of
our
course,
guest.
and our esteemed guest of the last couple of episodes has been Ibrahim Al-Ansari, who we've had some amazing conversations so far. Assalamu alaikum, Ibrahim.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. How are you both doing today?
We're doing well this morning. I've had my tea,
Thank you very much.
or coffee, and we're looking to start the blessed day with morning barakah, as they call it. Right.
Inshallah. So the
So
barakah
today-
in the morning barakah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So
Inshallah.
today this morning we're going to speak about the ziyarah
Yeah.
of Hazrat Abbas alayhi
Abu
salam.
Fadl Abbas alayhi salatu wassalam.
So just to
Yeah.
like sort of add to that, I guess in our last episode we looked at sort of the role of Sayyidina Zainab in Karbala, and I think today it's only befitting that we look at the role of Abu Fadl Abbas, especially since how in terms of going to visit Karbala, a lot of that is actually visiting Abu Fadl Abbas alayhi salam. So yeah, we're looking into the ziyarah of Abu Fadl Abbas from your perspective, Ibrahim.
The role, just before we get into the ziyarah, the role of Abu Fadl Abbas is summarized in one sentence that Imam Hussein said on the day of Ashura. أخي إذا مضيت تفرق عسكري. Oh my brother, if I was to lose you, my army would collapse. When did he say this? When no one was left in his army. Literally no one was left in his army.
Yeah.
When everyone was martyred, only Abu Fadl Abbas was there.
And even then he said that if I was to lose you,
That is exactly when he said it.
I would lose my whole army,
Yes.
although he's already lost his whole army.
His whole army is gone. And in this specific case, only Abu Fadl Abbas is there, and he's asking him, Oh Hussein, allow me to go into the battlefield. He says, oh brother, if I was to lose you, my whole army would go. That is the role of Abu Fadl Abbas. The role of Abu Fadl Abbas, he was the true army of Imam Hussein. He was the full army of Imam Hussein. He was the backbone of Imam Hussein on that day.
Yeah.
Abu Fadl Abbas, lessons and lessons and lessons we take from him. Unbelievable lessons. And how amazing is this specific personality of Abu Fadl Abbas that was raised by al-Banin.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
al-Banin played such a big part in raising Abu Fadl Abbas to the extent where Al-Abbas on the day of Ashura, he was offered, keeping in mind Shimr was from the same tribe as al-Banin was. So he was basically his uncle from his mother's side. Of course, far uncle. And he offered him unbelievable wealth.
Yeah.
He offered him unbelievable power.
Stature and power, yeah.
Abu Fadl Abbas said no. Leave that aside. That might have been easy to say no because people were around him, right? When he goes to the river and he hasn't drank water for 3 days, he puts his hand into the water, he picks it up. The narration says he feels the cold of the water, the coldness of the water he feels. And he raises it. Not only does he raise it, no, it gets as close to his mouth as possible, then he throws it away. He throws it away and he says, how can I drink before my own brother drinks?
Yeah.
This was the teachings of al-Banin. Do not do a specific act before your brother Hussein.
SubhanAllah.
But he didn't see it as a brother, did he? He saw it as his master, his imam, and
Yes.
that's just, servitude personified, isn't it?
And
in that man.
that is one of those things that really hit you when it comes to Abu Fadl Abbas, which is when you know that he had never called him brother. It was also always Master Hussein. And then when he falls, he shouts out, Akhi ya Hussein.
Yeah.
That is when he felt that brotherhood, and you want your brother to be there with you. And it's very painful when Imam Hussein approaches him, and I don't think we should get into that detail, but it's very painful because he shouts out to his brother that come to my aid, and Imam Hussein is there coming to his aid, and then when he's there he says to him, so leaving detail aside, he says, if you are here for me now, who's going to be there for you in an hour?
Exactly.
And then he says, keep me in my position because I was asked to bring water and I have nothing with me anymore.
I mean, we hear a lot about the stories in Karbala, but it's not just specific to Karbala. His brotherhood and his servitude towards the family, it started really from the beginning
It has.
of his life. And actually, subhanAllah, the reason why Imam Ali salam married al-Banin was for that specific purpose.
Definitely.
So he was a dua of Bibi Fatima, wasn't
his
he?
whole life
Yes.
was destined for it. Yeah.
But it makes you wonder that so Imam Hussein had this magnificent brother, companion, commander of his army, and you think that the Imam of our time, that when his time comes, that who will be that blessed to be able to serve him, and it's not something that you cannot relate to and think that those are historical, but we need to learn.
Definitely.
And examples for our children, for ourselves, that if the time comes, that what we have to live up to, that we...
Thing is, mentioning that very beautifully, it's very beautiful that you mentioned that, because Abul Fadl al-Abbas, a lot of people, when they look at him, they tend to go towards his bravery. They tend to go towards his stance in Karbala and how he fought the enemy and how he was there and stood steadfast with Imam Hussein against the enemies of Imam Hussein. However, one thing that we tend to put a blind eye to is that what actually got him to this position? It was his piety. It was his religion. It was how close he was to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the religion of Abul Fadl al-Abbas is mentioned by Imam Sadiq in his Ziyarah.
Okay.
He says, I bear witness that you obeyed Allah and His Messenger and Amir al-Mu'mineen. It is him obeying the commands of Allah, him obeying the commands of Rasulullah, him obeying the commands of his father and his brother that got him to the status that he was in.
Yeah.
It increased in his piety. It increased in his amazing religion. And it's sad that a lot of people, when they look at Abul Fadl al-Abbas, because one thing that a lot of people, and a lot of people get shocked when they hear this, but the reality is, Abul Fadl al-Abbas on the day of Ashura, he killed the least amount of people.
Yeah.
That's the reality of it. A lot of people get shocked, and I remember saying this once in a discussion, and I was attacked straight away. How can you say this about Abbas? No, hold on a second. Let's look at it. Abul Fadl al-Abbas, he killed the least amount of people, not because he went to war. No, in fact, a lot of people attacked him when he went to the river. But every time he was to go towards someone, they would run away.
Yeah.
How is he able to kill them? And even when he was killed from behind the palm tree.
Yeah.
But I think it's relevant to what you're saying to previous mornings that we've had this discussion about association and disassociation. If your path, whether it's starting from birth or when your parents are teaching you, as you grow up, that every point go towards a path of piety, because your end is not a coincidence that you end up in a position of esteem as he was, as you're saying, absolutely, that he wasn't just this brave soldier, suddenly on the 10th of Muharram he became that. He had lived in that path, he breathed in that path.
He lived a life of obedience.
Yeah.
He lived a life of taqwa, of piety. And similarly with al-Banin, the only thing that makes her so great is her piety.
Absolutely.
And I've said this before as well. The only thing that differed the prophets one from the other is their piety.
Yeah.
What makes Imam Ali the greatest is his piety. To the extent where, so for example, we have that with our Imams, that they are all of the same ranks, except for Imam Ali, he is higher than the rest. When you look at the religion of Imam Ali, Imam Baqir, one day he sees Imam Sajjad reading into a book, into a few pieces of paper, compiled together, so it's a book. And he was crying and weeping. He says, "Oh Father," Imam Baqir speaking to Imam Sajjad, "Oh Father, what are you reading into?" He says to him, "I am reading the ibadah of your grandfather, Amir al-Mu'mineen." He says to him, "And that is making you cry?" He said, "Yes, because who can reach the ibadah of Amir al-Mu'mineen?" Imam Sajjad speaking. Imam Sajjad is called Imam al-Sajjad.
Yeah.
Zainul Abidin.
Yeah.
literally religion and obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in his name.
Yeah.
And he was known for it. And he's saying, who can reach that? Is that piety that made him reach that? With Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas, with the companions of Imam Hussein that stood there on the day of Ashura with their clean hands, is their piety that got them to the stage that they were in.
Absolutely.
Obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is why Imam al-Sadiq very specifically mentions al-muti'u lillahi wa li rasulah. Wali Amir al-Mu'minin. And inshallah we'll get into that when we recite the dua, the ziyarah, sorry, inshallah.
So, I mean, look, aside from what we know of Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas as this strong warrior who's protecting, and you know, and even his name can mean frowning in the Arabic language. So, and he frowns towards the enemy, so that they're always constantly afraid. And it's always this thing where young children see Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas as this fearful figure who's always protecting and very, very angry, because he's always like protecting his brother and sister. But actually, in another sense, there's a lot more to Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas, and that's his piety, as you mentioned, and that's his religion, and that's how soft he was towards his brothers and sisters, and it's personified in the ziyarah, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
So
his vision, I mean, his spirituality was just amazing, wasn't it?
It was.
His vision that he could pierce his enemies and just through his eyes, you know, make contact, and you know, and if you meet even some of these alims, very, very, you know, very learned in the holy cities and in the seminaries, looking at them, it scares you. So let alone these figures, you think, wow, you know.
No, definitely.
And by the way, this is like this is narrated by Imam Sadiq, right?
Yes.
And for Imam Sadiq because we mentioned Imam Sadiq as testifying to the Imam, let's just say, of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, or to the stature of Imam Hussein, but this is Imam Sadiq testifying to the religiosity of a non-fallible.
And that is what makes it beautiful.
Non-infallible, sorry.
Yeah, But the thing is, there's a specific extract that Imam Sadiq actually mentions that I don't have with me today in the ziyarah as well. So if the viewers want to refer back to the ziyarah, he says, أشهد لك, I bear witness that you بالغت في النصيحة. You gave advice. Remember we talked about in Ziyarah Arba'in how Imam Hussein gave advice. In Ziyarah al-Nahiya we said he gave advice, and then when they went away from his advice, that is when the war actually... Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas did the exact same thing. He talks about how he always gave advice and how he always did the similar acts to the infallible. Meaning, religion is not based upon religion, giving advice, having taqwa, knowing how to deal with people, knowing how to talk to people. It's not just for the infallibles, not just for the 14 infallibles and the prophets. No, these are lessons that we should take.
Absolutely.
And we've mentioned before Ali al-Akbar being the most similar to Rasulullah. Similarly with Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas, to the extent where, like you beautifully mentioned, the Imam is testifying that you gave advice. The Imam is testifying that you obeyed Allah and His Prophet. How big is that?
There's many more. I testify and call Allah to witness that you abided by the same course that was taken of the warriors of the Battle of Badr, for example, and you know, defended His intimate ones. May Allah reward you the maximum, the most abundant. Where else? I testify that you acted extremely sincerely.
Yes.
There's so much
and
attributes.
Just keeps going.
Yeah, there's so much attributes to Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas.
Sorry.
Yes, I mean, I'm saying there's so many attributes that Imam Sadiq mentioned. So it's not a coincidence that he has a shrine of that stature.
Definitely.
And it's not a coincidence that we give so much importance to Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. If the Imam himself, Imam Sadiq himself, is giving that, so why are we going to, you know, this? And just a thought came to my head actually in terms of the protective nature of Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. It's amazing to see when we go to ziyarah, we're always recommended to actually recite the ziyarah of Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas first as a permission to recite the ziyarah for Imam Hussein. He's almost, even in Karbala itself, he's almost standing there as a god. For
and it's
for
also
Imam
like
Hussein.
it's to, I think, humble us, isn't it? That you are going alongside, you're going to the ziyarah of the best of the servants, to really put your own position in that. What are you? Drop your arrogance, you know, see the humility in that man, and then go towards your master, almost as though you're going with Hazrat Abbas. You're saying, "My salam to you, master." You know, it's such a process to go through. But I'm conscious we're running out of time. So if you'd like to Bismillah start.
Inshallah. Of course, starting again from the middle of the ziyarah. السلام عليك أيها العبد الصالح المطيع لله ولرسوله ولأمير المؤمنين والحسن والحسين. السلام عليك ورحمة الله وبركاته ومغفرته ورضوانه وعلى روحك وبدنك. أشهد وأشهد الله أنك مضيت على ما مضى به البدريون والمجاهدون في سبيل الله المناصحون له في جهاد أعدائه المبالغون في نصرة أوليائه الذابون عن أحبائه. فجزاك الله أفضل الجزاء وأكثر الجزاء وأوفر الجزاء وأوفى جزاء أحد ممن وفى ببيعته واستجاب له دعوته وأطاع ولاة أمره. أشهد أنك قد بالغت في النصيحة وأعطيت غاية المجهود فبعثك الله في الشهداء وجعل روحك مع أرواح السعداء وأعطاك من جنانه أفسحها منزلا وأفضلها غرفا ورفع ذكرك في عليين وحشرك مع النبيين والصديقين والشهداء والصالحين وحسن أولئك رفيقا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Well, the best of the ziyarahs to end with is the Baraka Islam, who are one of my most favourite personalities to connect to. And we come to an end of this series. Thank you so much for today and for all of your input. It's been absolutely amazing. I'm sure Ali will say it much more eloquently. But it's been really enlightening, and I have to thank you both personally from myself, and I'm sure from the viewers as well.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to be amongst the both of you. Jazakumullah.
No, we've actually learnt a lot. Because a lot of the times when you look into ziyarahs and du'as, sometimes you need another perspective as to the reasoning behind it, the history behind it. So it gives you much more of that certainty that these supplications are the vehicle towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you've eloquently put it throughout the last episode.
Good thoughts, Jazakumullah khair. We hope to get the good thoughts from the viewers as well, inshallah.
Inshallah. And inshallah in the future we meet again.
Inshallah.
Have a blessed day.
Likewise to yourselves.
So Arba'een is among us, and in the sense that the whole anyone that can go towards the shrine of Imam Hussein alayhi salam is there. So if you're not there, your hearts are trying to be aligned with those who are there, and who are there. They're on that journey towards self-realization, especially towards walking towards the shrine of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, seeing the shrine. May Allah accept their ziyarah, inshallah. And if you are there and you happen to see this program, please do not forget us in your du'as and your supplications. As for what's up next on the show, we still have Verses of Love with myself and my esteemed guests, the poets and the reciters, looking into the different emotional aspects of Ashura and Arba'een after this very short video. See you soon.
لبيك لبيك يا حسين لبيك 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 يا حسين. We have arrived in Karbala. We have arrived in Karbala. لبيك يا حسين لبيك يا حسين. We have arrived in Karbala. We have arrived in Karbala. لبيك يا حسين لبيك يا حسين. All my people I have led.
Love to Abu Abdullah alayhi salam.
alhamdulillah, you just see how many people there are. Every morning you wake up and you're so humbled to be here again and be given the opportunity to come to Abu Abdullah. It's something that is always part of you. You always feel that you want to come back to Karbala all the time. But then sometimes you forget that you're not the only person who loves Abu Abdullah. You see the love here, the amount of people who are devoting themselves physically, mentally, spiritually, financially, everything they have to come to see Abu Abdullah, to serve Abu Abdullah. People who are also walking are serving, people who are working in the mokibs are serving, people who are helping from home are paying and giving money. It's just something so humbling to be part of. And chance to be here again, it's just such a blessing, really. The thing about this walk that is so amazing is you see so many denominations and people from different places around the world, all driven by the love of Abdullah, all wanting to be with him, but all wanting to be with each other, hugging each other, holding each other, helping each other get through. It's something beautiful. It also breaks your heart because you can't help but think of those whose walk we're doing. The sunnah of this walk is the sunnah of Bibi Zainab and you think that the best of creations and those who are the guiding lights are the ones who helped us, taught us so much, were treated in the worst of ways, and we, or at least myself, the worst of people, are treated in the best of ways. It just makes you think.
I do show in me love seeds you have sown, for art within me does flow. You're the moon within the night, you're the guiding ship of light. For Islam you did fight, how in passion I'm inflamed. Your land on my heart is engraved. لبيك يا حسين، لبيك يا حسين.
Welcome back, dear viewers, and as you've seen on your screens, the day of Arba'in is edging ever closer, and in a sense the electrifying atmosphere has reached almost its pinnacle when it comes to people visiting Imam Hussein alayhi salam. They're coming from all sides, all corners of the globe in order to pledge their allegiance to Imam Hussein alayhi salam. I'm joined in this segment of Verses of Love by my dear guest Nouri Sardar, who joins us once again for some fascinating discussions and insights into poetry and the land of poetry and the world of poetry. I've learned a lot over my journey of the last couple of episodes, especially since having a deep dive into your personal life and how that's affected poetry and how that's affecting your view on poetry and how you write poetry, the effect of ziyarah as well. I want to really bring it all together and give actionable recommendations to up-and-coming poets, spoken word poets, reciters even, on what they can do, what steps they need to take in order to be successful, but in a sense be who they are and be able to showcase their talents to the world. So I've personally, just before you do, I've personally written 5 different points, and you probably will agree or disagree. It's first and foremost, they really need to learn the message, and then clear their intention, learn the techniques, know the audience, and then just be themselves. Yeah. That's probably the journey that usually they
I think in terms of specifically writing a poem, the first thing that you got to think about is the actual idea. I think every poem has to encompass an idea, and the way you write it. And one thing I learned from Jabir Kadhimi, which is beautiful, what he says, he goes, I have never written the same poem twice, which means that if he's written a poem about a specific topic, let's say for example the topic is Abbas speaking to the river, for example, Yishat al-Maut, that poem, it's all about that topic. Meaning you cover every aspect of that topic from beginning to end, and you never have to touch that topic again. So the next time you write about Abbas alayhi salam, you can write it from a new perspective, new metaphor. I think that's the most important thing. You got to think about every time I sit down to write a poem, the first thing I think about is what is the idea that I want to portray? What metaphor do I want to use? It has to be something that I've never heard before, something that people who listen to it have never heard before, something that's very original. That's what separates a good poem from a subpar poem. And that extends again to couplets or spoken word poetry, or whatever kind of what you're doing. Ultimately, poetry is emotions on paper. It's your emotions on paper. So you're just translating your emotions into written form. And I think that's the most important thing. More than anything else is the idea.
The idea.
You're writing a story ultimately. So you've got to know what story you're writing, know how you're going to get from, know how you're going to cover the story from beginning to end. And then in that, once you're in that process of writing, that extends to each and every single line. So one thing I failed in over the years is not being meticulous enough with each and every single line. You have to be, every single line has to be there for a reason. Every single line is there to tell us a story for a reason, a story within the greater story of the poem. Third thing I would say that people, a trap that people fall into, including myself, is rhyming for the sake of rhyming. So just right now before the show started, I was working with a reciter on one of my poems. And the rhyme of the verse was a bound and pound and stuff like that. And one of the lines that was in the poem, which I'll recite today, was in yearning of Hussein's grave, my head I'd pound. And again, like, I don't think the rhyme, I think that is an unfortunate case of the rhyme overtaking the
idea.
The idea, like you're rhyming for the sake of it. So that's something I'm working on.
That's very difficult to do because the English language is, or the vocabulary is very limited, isn't it?
It's very hard. I think with Arabic poetry, with Urdu poetry, with Iranian poetry, it's very easy because the language flows. You know, for Arabic, for one word, you have 24 different meanings, or 24 different words for one meaning. English is very limited, so it's very, very tough. But once you're in that mindset, once you've been doing it for long enough, once you're used to it, that's when you can really master the art. And I think, again, going back to being true to yourself, you just got to write it in a way that is true to what you believe. So me, for example, it sounds funny, but I watch a lot of film and TV.
Yeah.
So sometimes when I'm writing, I remember a certain scene that I've seen, or a certain, you know, a way someone has fought with his sword, and I try to depict that in my poetry. So other people might have different interests, different things they see in their life, different things they experience, which they should put into their poetry. I remember someone once told me that I can learn a lot about you, speaking to me, just by reading your poetry. And that's true, because your poetry is always going to be a reflection of yourself. It should always reflect your experiences. Even in storytelling, they say that a lot of people, successful storytellers, for example, you know, J.K. Rowling and all these people that write, whenever they write stories, a lot of what they're writing is in some way or another a depiction of things that happen in their own lives as well. So it's important to take that and put it in your poetry as well.
Yeah. So first you start off with the idea from what you're mentioning. What's the next step after that?
So if you're writing a noha or a latmiya, it all goes to the chorus. To quote Jawad Academy again, he says, once I've written the chorus to a poem, I know what the rest of the poem is going to be. So the chorus, for example, has to encompass everything the story is going to be about. It's the main thing. And it becomes hard when, let's say, for example, if I'm writing for you, for example, I know you're going to recite. I think, for example, okay, he's going to recite in this center or that center. I know the crowd there. So the chorus, for example, if you're going to recite at a certain center, it has to be simple. But at the same time, it has to be good enough to be a chorus. But at the same time, it has to be powerful. At the same time, it has to be, simple enough to recite. And so it's really hard. It's not easy at all.
And so the chorus is basically we said the anwan. So the chorus is like
the source of the summary of the poem. It's the summary of the poem. You know, it says everything you're going to talk about from therein.
Okay.
I think that's very important.
All right. So you've got the idea, and then you're looking into the chorus of the poem, and this is the chorus obviously is depending on if you're writing a traditional latmiya.
Of course. Again,
what happens if you're doing spoken poetry? What happens then?
Thing is that's a whole new avenue that I'm still dabbling in, so I can't give you a definitive answer to that in terms of structurally, but definitely I would say it's the same kind of idea. Let's say, for example, with the Grenfell poem that I wrote, I knew from the beginning that I wanted to touch on both Grenfell and my experiences growing up in a similar environment. So I made sure that I had that poem to encompass all of that. And again, following the same rules, I would never write the same poem again. If I wrote about Grenfell again, it would be from a different perspective. I think
so. It wouldn't be, for example, the main idea behind Grenfell was your experiences growing up in a similar building.
Yes. So if I was to write it again, I wouldn't speak about my experiences again because I've done that now. I don't need to do it again. And that's the whole point. Once you've tackled it, you're done. You don't need to do the same thing again. Yeah. And so you can write about Grenfell again, for sure, but then different perspective. So, you know, I'd have to think about a whole new way to tell that same story. And that's the idea.
Okay. So in terms of, let's just assume that we're writing a traditional latmiya. We've started off with the idea, we've put a chorus, so our idea has to be summarized in a chorus, and that chorus is dependent on the audience, dependent on the center or whatever it may be. After the chorus, what happens?
then you start to tell the story. So then after the chorus, depending on, I think all languages and all kind of different types of recitation kind of follow the same rules, but you got verses after verses. So you know you want to tell a specific story, so you just use your number of verses, let's say 1 to 8, to tell that story. So for example, going back to the example of Ishat al-Maut, an Arabic poem by Jalal al-Qadami, where Abbas is speaking to the river. So the story starts off with him setting out from the camp, going toward the river, reaching the river, speaking to the river, throwing the water back, and then heading back towards the camp, and then ultimately passing away. So you already know what the story is going to be once you start writing it. And I think using Abbas's story, that's probably the perfect way to understand how a latmiya should work, because every Abbas latmiya is going to be the same thing. It's going to start off with him at the camp. It's going to him going towards the water, and then him coming back and ultimately dying. But each different poem focuses on different rules. So Ya Abu Satain by Jabir as well is him speaking to his dad, Imam Ali, and saying, "I've done what you asked." It's the same story, but it's from that perspective. Then you got other poems, for example, he's speaking to Sayyidah Zainab, or Sayyidah Zainab's telling him, for example, you know, "I wish you came back." But it's still the same story, but it's just told from that perspective, you know. And I think that's the best way to kind of describe it.
Brilliant. Okay, so we've got an idea, we've got a summary in the chorus. We then put the idea into different verses. The story that you're telling is into different verses. What happens after that, Nori?
Then you finish the poem.
And then you finish the poem. Okay, so all right, so then after that, there comes a couple of different things. You can either keep it with your own collection, reflect upon it, know that you've got this in your repertoire, or know that you've written something about that. But then the whole point of why poets or up and coming poets want it is because they want to put it out there so people can listen to. If you were starting up, not now, if you were starting up, what's the first thing you'll do?
Post online.
You wouldn't, for example, want to get reviewed? Or does it matter?
So I think when I started
Again,
off, me posting it online, I'm a bit daring in that I just throw it out there and then wait for the feedback afterwards. But that is how I would get my feedback. You know, unless you have a circle of good critical friends. This is very important. You can get friends who just say everything you're writing is amazing. You can also get very critical friends. I'm in a circle of friends who are very critical of my work. Some people support it, some people are like, you know, don't really understand it. But it's important to gauge that criticism in every which way, and then take on the criticism that you feel is correct. The criticism that you don't feel understands your work completely, you can leave that aside. But that is how ultimately you build your poem. And again, like you ask about someone starting up, there is no way to make it. There is no set way to go out there and become a poet that's known by everyone. All I would say is that, number one, share your poetry on different platforms. Look at currently today, it's Instagram. I would say is the biggest way to share your poetry, or Twitter. In 10 years' time, it will be a completely different way to share your poetry. But use those platforms ultimately to share it. Like we've been saying again, I'm going to sound like a broken record. Be true to yourself. Be sincere, because anything that's sincere is what touches the hearts. You know, I think one of the most famous poets now, again, I don't want to, she's quite controversial, so I don't want people to go and I know it's Islamic channel, I don't want people to start going looking up her stuff, but Rupi Kaur is one of the, probably the most successful Insta poet there is alive today. Her poetry isn't all that, it's not incredibly deep, but because it's sincere, because it speaks to people, because they feel like it relates to them, that's why they enjoy it, that's why they like it.
Relatable.
Yeah, it's relatable. Not just relatable, but it comes from a place that's real. And that's what people appreciate.
Okay, so going to different platforms, social media. I wanted to go back to the verses again. In terms of the techniques of making a good poem, writing a good story, what would you advise on that?
Ultimately, you're a storyteller, so you need to be original. That's all it is. You need to be original. You need to be intimate. You need to be true to yourself. Again, I'm saying it for the 1000th time. And you just need to. It's like doing a work of art. I mean, we can sit here and talk about technicalities all day long, but ultimately I can't tell someone how to paint a picture. Only they can do it. They know the tools, they know the which way, they know how other people do it. They can learn the skills to make it better, but ultimately only they can paint that image. And then moving on from that, it's ironic because it's not up to us to interpret our poetry. And this is one thing that I struggled with as well, because I remember when I used to have my Facebook profile, I made it into a page afterwards. When I used to have the profile, I used to post out poems, and people used to say, "What do you mean? What does that mean? What does this mean?" And I used to sit there and reply to them. And I felt that devalued the poetry so much, because the poetry is not there for me to explain it. It's art. You put it out there, people can take what they want, they can argue about it, they can debate what it means, but to sit there and explain it is to devalue it.
Yeah.
Right. Ultimately, people have to people will take in what they can of it.
Yeah.
You know. And
there's a growing sense within poetry and writing English poetry that it more or less follows the same format of, I love Hussein, he has an inspiration in my life, I'll make so many sacrifices about him, look at the sacrifices that he's done for Islam, we should be sending the message to the non-Muslims. It's following the same format, and to be honest with you, they're not of a great quality. Number one, from my perspective, to recite it, especially since reciting English can be a bit difficult in a sense, in its own, and then actually reciting a poem which is really that deep. How would you then go tell kids or the youth, look, we appreciate that you love Imam Hussein, but is that really a poem?
Thing is, ultimately, all my poems do that anyway. They do the same thing. Every poem that I write is essentially that. I love Imam Hussein and this is my sacrifice for him, but it's just told in a different way. And that's what I'm talking about when it comes to originality. We all want to say the same story. We all want to tell the same message, right? But it's about how you tell it. That's all it is. Every poem about, again, going back to the metaphor of Abbas's Musibah, every poem about Abbas's Musibah is telling Abbas's Musibah. It didn't happen 1,000 ways, it happened one way. But it's the way you tell it, the perspective in which you tell it from. That's going to make all the difference. And I think that's what people need to appreciate. And again, going back to making sure that each line is there for a reason. Each rhyme is there for a reason. You're not rhyming pain with Hussein because it's easy. You know, you can still rhyme pain with Hussein, but it depends what you're using to rhyme, what you're using that rhyme for, what you're saying. And that's ultimately what it's about. It's about painting an image that no one else has heard before. And that's a challenge. It's not an easy process whatsoever. It's hard.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, to write a good poem, that's what you need.
Brilliant. Well, look, Nouria, I'd love to bring everything that we've learned from you all together, and to get a rendition of one of your poems. I'm sure you have something.
This poem, ironically, the misuse of the rhyme that I said before is in this poem. So forgive me, it's not 100%.
Head-eye pound.
Yeah, head-eye pound. But this poem basically is about Arba'in. Obviously, we're here today to commemorate Arba'in, and we're here to remember the message of Arba'in. And this is something I thought of when I was there in the shrine, looking at the shrine and just wishing that I was there every single Arba'in, and I was there. I would always be given the opportunity to do his ziyarah. The year I don't see his grave, that's the year that I become blind. The Arba'in that I'm not there, rest assured is the day I've died. Be it that I'm full of youth or that I'm frail and old, his shrine gives me warmth, and without it I'm frail and cold. His shrine gives me warmth, and without it I'm frail and cold. God forgive me if on Judgment Day I am asked when I am called, you missed Arba'in once. Of its greatness weren't you told? When I'm called for questioning, with dust in my hair I'll come, holding the flag that I held when I walked to Ali's son. Whatever I lost in life, on that walk so much more I'd find. The Arba'in that I'm not there, rest assured is the day I've died. I smelt the dust of heaven, walking upon that road. The dust that rose traveled with me to heaven's abode. Perhaps because the flood of Noah's ark once flowed. Perhaps because the flood of Noah's ark here once flowed. And upon it the ship of salvation Hussein had rowed. I saw waves flow to his grave. Waves of souls and of people. And I saw him take them all with him. With his ship he had set sail. The people he took with him on the road to him had dined. The Arba'in that I'm not there, rest assured that is the day I've died. It was once upon this road that they walked as captives, and yet alongside her daughters know that Zainab still lives. I see that flags into our hands Ruqayya's hand gives, and the walk of Hashim's queen every walker relives. But remember as we walk, as in our eyes trickle tears, we all walk by Mawakib, we all walk beside Mawakib. Zainab walked by heads on spears. The stars that sit in the sky with Mawakib are aligned. The Arba'in that I'm not there, rest assured is the day I've died. Yes, we walk yearly on this road, the road of the free. But would we return, if impossible it would be? Recall those who were executed for walking on this way. Those who when they reached Hussein's grave, for their own lives they'd pray. Oh Allah, make me of those, when by Hussein's grave they would stand, had no left hand to be cut, so had offered their right hand. When presented with their deaths, For Hussein they gladly signed. The Arba'een that I'm not there, rest assured is the day I've died. The walk to heaven, it is reserved for the courageous. Every step is a Hajj and Umrah. And God's house is Hussein's house. When I see my flag flutter, I see full terrorists. Those blessed to walk this road are reserved for greatness. No, I am not arrogant, but I know well of my worth, and those that kill us on this road cannot be of pure birth. I saw those who know of God leave their work and home behind. The Arba'een that I'm not there, rest assured is the day I've died. Those who believe, those who visit, believe in God and in God alone. As the narrations say, it's like visiting Allah's throne. The believers cry as on His grave themselves they have thrown. The believers cry as on His grave their bodies they have thrown, saying peace be upon the flesh that still remains on these bones. As we hold on to those bars and wonder what is heaven, if it's not here saluting the last of Ali's children. We thank Allah for we are the luckiest of mankind. The Arba'een that I'm not there, rest assured is the day I've died. The day I die and my body is placed into the ground. In distress of yearning Hussein's grave, my own head I would pound. But know that if any miss me, to return I'll be bound. Every Arba'een, on that walk my soul can be found. Take a glimpse at those walking, you'll find me still amongst them. Oh, you'll find me at the road's end, in His shrine doing martyrdom. And if any need a prayer, just ask my grave, I won't mind. Because the Arba'een that I'm not there, rest assured is the day I've died. The year I don't see his grave, that is the year I become blind. And the Arba'een that I'm not there, rest assured is the day I've died. And I pray inshallah everyone gets a chance to visit Imam Hussein's grave in Arba'een every year inshallah.
Many thanks for your time, Noor Sardar. We really appreciate your time, your efforts on this season of Morning Baraka. The audience as well would love to give their appreciation to your time as well, and the many fabulous insights into the world of poetry from Noor Sardar's perspective, how it's changed, what's going to be shaping the future, the different techniques, and as well as really I think the main thing was just staying true to yourself, be yourself when you're writing the poetry. Nouri, thank you so much for your time. Up next on Dear Ma'sooma, as part of the Morning Baraka program, Zara and Ma'sooma Jafar will be taking your questions and queries, so stay tuned for that. Zara, over to you.
Thank you so much for the recitation, and it's a pleasure to welcome Sister Ma'sooma again. Thank you for coming. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Inshallah you're well.
Alhamdulillah, thank you.
So we have a question today, and quite sad. So, dear Ma'sooma, I lost my husband to cancer. He was my best friend. More than ever, I feel the closest I've ever been to Allah, but lately I found myself praying for death. I'm hoping that's not sinful, as I would never take my own life, but I just feel that I realise that I'd rather let this temporary life be over sooner because I miss my husband. Words of wisdom would be much appreciated, and God bless you for your efforts. I absolutely love your segments. That's really okay.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I think first and foremost, our heart goes out to this sister, and our du'as are with her.
And definitely, if there's anybody, sister, you're listening, that please don't hesitate to contact the team if there's anything we can do to assist you, and inshallah Sister Ma'sooma will try to help resolve this, her dilemma.
I think there's a few things that we can look at here. First and foremost, I think she says he was my best friend. I think she's so lucky that she found a husband who she can actually say was my best friend. That's amazing.
Yeah.
There are very few people who can actually say that. So that gratitude towards and thanking Allah is really important, to realise the positiveness of what she had, and to realise that God gave her something that she required in her life, and when He decided to take him away, He didn't abandon her, and He gave her the strength and the sabr to be able to be okay with that.
And it sounds like his comfort. She said, I feel closest to Allah. So his comfort is there.
Yeah, so she feels that connection with Allah, which is amazing. A lot of times I think people get upset and angry at God, whereas she doesn't seem to, which is beautiful. I think that's really important. I think obviously she's missing him, which is normal.
Yeah.
But she's got to realise that, you know, I think about, and I'm sure she knows this, but it's just thinking about the whole purpose of life and death and what it's all there for. If we imagine the earth to be the womb for the soul, you know, we just like the mother's womb is there for the fetus, and you know, the fetus grows in there for 9 months. Once it's grown to a certain level, it can no longer grow in there, and then it has to come out of the womb.
Yeah.
In the same way, we're on the earth for our soul to grow, and it will, you know, as long as we continually keep growing, we will stay on this earth until we get to a stage where the earth can no longer then help us with our growth, and then God takes us away. So, you know, realizing that, you know, her husband's journey was over, and he's moved on to the next stage of his journey, and she's still, you know, is because she's still on this earth and she's still growing, and there is still potential for her to grow, and to continue that growth, and not to sort of give up on life, because if she gives up on life, then that growth won't happen.
But I think while his physical presence is obviously lacking, she's grieving him. Something that I found myself when my mother passed away was obviously the lack, you know, the absence in my life of her love, of her presence. So, and then I turned that into, well, what could I do for her soul that will benefit her? Yes. And you can still feel the closeness, you can benefit, because that, like you said, he's gone on to his next part of his journey. Yeah. And there we still are in need of the good deeds that we left. And if we haven't done them, we've done them for whatever we did, there's still people we have, we're blessed to have, can continue that. So perhaps that's something she could.
So again, you know, so looking at, like I was saying, for her growth, but also, you know, his growth as well, which is what you mentioned. Sure. And I think it's important to realise that, you know, he can't help himself anymore. So, you know, the fact that he was there for her, the fact that he gave her so much, the fact that they had an amazing relationship, then she can give him back by continuing with the journey that they both started. And obviously, they, you know, the fact that she's feeling connected to Allah means that they must have connected together towards Allah. And if she continues with that journey, and she continues doing things which will not only help her grow but help him grow as well, you know, in his realm, which will be amazing for you know, for both of them. Absolutely. So I think realizing that there's a purpose for her to continue. I think what I'm getting from what she's written is that she doesn't see the point of continuing. And she needs to get that purpose back. And the purpose is actually for not only her growth, but for him as well. She needs to do it for both of them.
Do you think support mechanisms, how could she reach out perhaps to sort of get through this initial grief that, you know, has obviously overcome her, that she's getting to the point that she doesn't want to live anymore?
Yeah, so, you know, the way that she's written it, she says that she feels, you know, she feels closest to than she has ever to Allah, and then she talks about the fact that, you know, she's praying for her death. So in the same sentence, it's like she feels closest to Allah, but then she's praying for her death because she's missing him so much. And it may be because she's scared that if she tells others that she wants to die because she's missing him so much, they may make a judgment that she doesn't have faith. Because a lot of the times people make judgments on what you're saying. So, you know,
I mean, when death happens, people often, the dua they give is, may Allah give you patience, and they'll say, well, she doesn't have patience.
Yeah,
she's
again, you know, I think we need to change the way we say that. Just because you brought it up, just on a side note, I think it's really important. You know, we tell people who've just lost someone, may Allah give you patience. Allah already gave them patience before He took their loved one away. So it would be much more powerful for us to actually tell them, may you use the patience that Allah's given you, or hold on to the patience that Allah has given you. Because I think that's much more powerful, because when you're told, may Allah give you, you're waiting for this patience to come from somewhere, and you don't feel like you have it. Whereas if you're told you've already got it, just hold on to it, use it. It gives you a little bit more strength, I feel.
Definitely.
So yeah, I think a lot of the times, you know, she may feel that people are judging. A lot of the times I think when it's been a while, people expect you to get over it.
Yes, yes.
And, you know, if you're talking about it again, it's like, why haven't you got over it? What's wrong with you? He's been gone. But, you know, if he's been a major part of my life for 20, 30, 40 years, I'm not going to get over it within a year or two.
And everyone's grief is different, isn't it? It could take a couple of years for some people. It doesn't.
Yeah, and I think she needs to tell her family members, her friends, you know, her close, the people who are close to her, how she feels. And I think, you know, and actually if she feels that she's being judged, to tell them that, you know, please don't judge me. This is how I feel, and I'm just letting you know how I feel. And I think, you know, family members, community need to make more of an effort. A lot of the times when someone passes away, we're there for them initially, and that's brilliant. But then we go back to our lives and they're left, and they're left with this huge
And that's the harder
gap.
time, isn't it? The post sort of recovery time, where it's like...
Yeah, because then it's like you have to now literally build a new life, because it's like you can't continue with the same life, because it's
changed. Yeah.
So it's really important for us to be there for others, and for her to actually ask for help as well. We're social creatures. We can't live isolated. It's, you know, we're not created to live isolated. So it's really important for us to do that. And also for her to continue building this relationship with Allah. Maybe talking to Allah, telling Allah how she feels. You know, asking Allah to sort of, you know, take care of him and help him on his journey, and help her. So, and you know, she, just to finish off with the fact that she talks about praying for death, and she hopes that that's not sinful. It's not sinful to pray for death, but again, I think it's beautiful how Imam Sajjad alayhi salam, you know, the dua that he used to do was, Ya Allah, give me life as long as it's in your service. The moment that it becomes the grazing ground of shaitan, then take me away.
Definitely.
Yeah. So again, sort of maybe changing her dua slightly, sort of, as long as I'm growing, as long as I'm in your servitude, then let me continue to live, because I'm serving a purpose. You know, and only take me when I'm ready, when you know I've reached the highest I can reach, when you know that I've served my purpose on this world, then take me. I think a lot of the times when we do dua, we make that thing the end, the goal. So, you know, if she's praying for death, she's made death the goal, not Allah. If I'm praying for children, I've made children my goal. You know, I've cut my dua. I need to make sure God is always my end. So, Ya Allah, you know, let me die if it brings me closer to you. Ya Allah, let me have children that will bring me closer to you. Ya Allah, let me have children that I can then bring up as Muslims, as Shias. You know, so it's ensuring that my dua doesn't cut, and I constantly make sure that the end is always Allah. So if she feels the need to pray for death, then pray in a way that makes it a complete dua. Ya Allah, give me death when I have fulfilled my rights that are on me. Ya Allah, you know, let me die when I have, I don't know, served you in the way that I was meant to serve you. So it's not about dying in order to meet him again. It's about
reaching her potential. I think what you're saying is actually very, in the beginning you said that, you know, she was blessed to have him as a best friend, and often when the test comes, it's in the thing that will be difficult for us. It's not meant to be, a test is not meant to be easy. So the fact that she had such a beautiful relationship, and then now this is her time to show Allah that actually I'm really grateful, exactly how you said that, grateful for that relationship that you blessed me with, and now it's going to be that because I am grateful with your blessings, and when they're taken away in our perspective, then it's really showing her faith, isn't it, that Allah also, actually I trust in your judgments.
For sure. And it's also, I think also God gives you what you need when you need it. So at that time maybe she needed him to be there, and now she's strong enough to do it without him. So it's refocusing her attention and her love to Allah rather than to her husband. The love of her husband should be as an extension to the love of Allah. So it's again refocusing it. So initially maybe she needed her husband in order to get close to Allah, and now it's like, okay, now God wants you to do it on your own and just have that relationship with him. And I think that's beautiful.
And you know, some people, like they say, you know, it's better to have loved and lost rather than never have loved. And if you have a husband that gave you so much comfort, you had, you know, equally you had that relationship, and that he unfortunately passed away. But you know, it's a beautiful thing to have gone through, because there's people that go through a lifetime and never experience that. And you know, this is such a blessing. And you know, while we could see this, and you know, from her perspective, she says it was short-lived, or however many years he lived, but it was, at least it came to you, and and that's such a massive sort of.
And it doesn't have to end with death.
No,
you can continue that relationship by helping him and helping yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Inshallah, she finds, you know, like you're saying, the patience that Allah has given her, she benefits from that, and continues in her her journey. But it's a difficult path, isn't it? It's just final point for, if you, I don't know if you want to make any of that, you know, we don't know if they've got children or, you know, it's very difficult in those circumstances to sort of look for that light when there's so much other going on and, you know, your heart's yearning for this person. So it's understandably acknowledged it's a difficult path.
Oh, no, of course. Yeah. It is very, very difficult. And like you said, you know, tests aren't meant to be easy.
No.
Growth doesn't happen when it's easy. You know, you have to come out of your comfort zone. You have to go through difficulty in order to grow.
Yeah.
You know, if you look back at your own life, you are the person you are because of the difficulties that you went through life. Otherwise, you wouldn't be.
No.
So it's again, but realizing that God only gives you what you can cope with, what you can manage. So you know you have the tools to be able to be okay with this situation, and not only be okay, but actually grow closer to Allah through this situation.
Definitely, and I hope the sister is blessed to have a friend like yourself, where she has those words of comfort, and you know, inshallah, it really does help somebody, doesn't it, to be that support for them. So, inshallah, she has that mechanism and network around her. And thank you so much. And definitely be in our prayers as well. Thank you so much. Inshallah, we'll see you soon. That's all for now. And next up, we have mini Hussainis.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Lazia Hussaini TV. I'm here today at a new Hussaini. I'll be joining the Majlis and do a bit of interviewing. So come on inside and I'll tell you what I'll be doing. The lecturer has the role of teaching us many lessons, from the event of Karbala and the life of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. When they mention the stories of the children in Karbala, it shows me that anyone can be a khadim no matter the age.
We will fly it forever. Our home is Karbala, where the youth of the Shia, Hussein's flag is our treasure.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm here with Manhar, and he's a lecturer. And I'm going to ask him a few questions how to be a better mini Hussaini. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
How are you?
Alhamdulillah, how are you?
Good. I want to ask, what made you want to give lectures?
In actual fact, I wanted to give lectures because I feel like all of the lecturers up there are very old. They don't know how to communicate with the youth, with the younger children. So I felt that as a young person, I would communicate more effectively, better with the younger children by giving lectures on things that are relative to us in this world.
How old are you when you start giving lectures?
I was around 16 years old.
Why did you recite for Imam Hussein alayhi salam?
There isn't a better service that anyone can give to anyone else other than Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Imam Hussein doesn't need us, we need him. So we recite to get closer to the Ahlul Bayt, and we recite to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. And that's why we recite for them.
How do you prepare for the Rijali?
So usually I have a topic that I want to talk about, and I have 3 subtopics, and I have those in my head, and you know, in the lecture, number 1, do it, number 2, do it, and obviously I have background preparation and background research.
Can you give me and the mini Hussainis a tip about serving Imam Hussein?
I'd say learn about Imam Hussein, learn about his life outside of Karbala, learn about what he was outside of Karbala. You know, don't limit Imam Hussein to just 10 days. Learn because he lived for 58 years, not 10 days. So learn what he did throughout his life. Inshallah, you serve him the best of service.
Thank you for your time. See you guys next time. Bye.
Yes, welcome to the final part of Morning Baraka, where we are taking a bit of a deep dive into the jurisprudential context behind Muharram and Safar. What you've just seen on your screens now is just one part of the whole ethos and the theme behind the series, and it's Muharram and Safar, and taking an importance into looking at the youth and how, especially from what you've seen, the young girl and her experiences in Muharram and Arba'een, alongside her grandfather, and how she is being exposed to the rituals behind Muharram and Arba'een, wearing black, for example, helping guide the mosque, and so on and so forth. So the last part, and as we welcome the last show of Morning Baraka for this series, myself and Zara are welcoming Sayyid Muhsin Shah. Thank you so much for coming onto the show for the last time. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Good.
Mashallah.
So today we're going to be, from a jurisprudential point of view, we looked at what's recommended, what's not recommended, what some things could be haram, and some things that are wajib to do, for example,
Indeed.
during Muharram and Safar. And today, well, our last discussion in previous episodes was looking at Arba'een in the West, and then looking at Arba'een from a youth perspective within our communities. And now we're bringing those two kind of issues together, looking at our responsibility from I think it's a civil service perspective.
Okay.
In terms of how we connect to the government, for example, or to the identity. There's identity issues as well. So we do have a
question.
Sorry,
Yeah.
we have a question.
So this is from a brother in the UK. Dear Sayyid, can you please tell me the Islamic ruling on whether it is permissible to work in a job to do with the government, such as policing, military, medic, etc.? Sometimes the rules of the job can be against what is religiously acceptable, such as hijab issues with doctors or military policing duties. And they've given an example of arresting someone via military duties. Please do advise.
Yeah. Just again, the quite a lot in that in terms of the question, but I think the main thing is there's a couple of questions that we can gain from that, I think, Zara. So first of all, is it permissible to work in a job that entails policing, military and medic?
And
for the government.
those kind of jobs,
Yeah.
not just those.
And then we'll talk about the specifics in terms of what these jobs entails, because some people say actually working for the police is actually haram because you're helping the government and the government's corrupt and so on and so forth. So can you shed some light on that?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In terms of policing, or whether it is NHS, or whether it is medics to do with policing medics and military medics, and also whether it is career in the military, most of these are acceptable, except for the military. You have to go and ask your marja, speak to them in regarding your case, and get permission from your marja if it involves frontline action, or whether it involves using what we call weaponry or any sort of arsenal to fire, and even to kill someone. You have to speak to your marja in regards to that, or your hakam shari, the waqil of your marja.
Is that just because of a Western?
It even Islamically, like,
it doesn't matter where you are.
Killing is not acceptable except on the battlefield, and even then, that's in terms of jihad. The rulings that we have, the Maraja, clearly state that there is no such thing as jihad unless the Imam is present. We cannot go into an Islamic war.
Or the scholar has a clause that permits jihad. For example, if the heritage of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam is under attack, i.e. the shrines, and then the scholar can issue a fatwa saying it is now wajib upon you to go out and defend the shrines.
And that jihad is a defensive jihad, it's not an aggressive jihad.
So how does policing get into that? So say you have anti-terrorism police and they have to...
Indeed, policing-wise, I mean, it doesn't mean that you are on front line and you're just walking the beat, as they say. You could be in an administrative role, you could be answering telephone calls. To work for the police department in this country is allowed. It's not that, the policing is, corrupt, or it works for a corrupt government, you're not allowed. No, at the end of the day, this is not a Muslim country. We have to obey by the rules and the laws of this country.
Right.
And in a way, we are providing a safer environment for our community and for Muslims out there by working for the police. When it comes to the job, now I managed to speak to my teacher, who happens to be also the representative of Sayyid Sadiq Shirazi, Hafidhullah, He was saying that in regards to policing, it is allowed, as long as the lady observes the hijab, she is allowed to be a police officer and she is allowed to walk the beat. Ideally, it will be better if there was a male counterpart with her, a partner that can help deal with certain issues like arresting people and such. If she has to, she's not allowed to have any physical contact, which is referred to as skin on skin. So she's not allowed to have skin on skin with the opposite gender.
If you have to arrest a thug on a estate,
yes,
at that point is she going to think about, oh, I mustn't touch him skin on skin? She's
Mashallah,
got a duty through her.
Yeah, the police department have issued pepper sprays, so I'm sure she'll be able to apprehend anyone at a distance. I mean, if you really want to be
practical though, because she's going to say, sorry, my manager said, let me spray you. It's accountability, isn't there?
If we look at jurisprudentially, there are certain. I'm sure you can get away with wearing gloves if you are to wear gloves. You will be able to do your job properly and not have to worry too much about the ahkam rules that apply to you doing your job. Ideally, you want to be transferred, or you want to just deal with females. And always same with the males as well. You just want to deal with males, the same gender, and maybe it will be an idea to pair up with an opposite gender, so you two can take turns into dealing with the situation based on the gender that you're dealing with.
Okay, and so
I would say that's really impractical. I mean, it's very impractical, isn't it? If you're a police officer on the beat, and I know a couple of women that are.
So I was just about to ask. I mean, I've never come across a policewoman who wears a hijab.
She didn't wear hijab. She's Muslim.
Right.
She didn't wear hijab, but she was.
So
very
I guess
much,
the hijab rules don't apply to her then.
No, she's not going to be observing them. But if in her line of work, if there was a lady that's wearing, and I have seen hijab wearing constables on the streets, how would they practically be expected to, suddenly see something, offence taking place? They can't, go to the counterpart. You go. I can't. It's so impractical. So I don't know if there's sort of occupations that are.
Well,
I don't know, how would you go about
I understand
that?
where you're coming from, but at the end of the day, we have to remember the Islamic rulings here, and there's no excuses, for not observing these rules. And let's be honest, a police constable's job is to do the best that they can. There are plenty of police officers who, I'm not going to go at the police department here, but sometimes the whoever they are interrogating, or if there's a criminal on the scene, they get away, even if it's a male on a male. They get away, and I'm talking about, in the integrity of them doing their job properly. So if a female in hijab, if for whatever reason, her subject got away, it's not as if that, or if it was a male, or if it, the same gender, they would have done a better job. And if in these circumstances, if these things like this do happen, they have a system that they play by. They have like a protocol where they would radio in, okay, I'm on this, suspect in pursuit, and this location, and ask for backup, and that's their job. That's what
we're talking about the police here, and let's not get into the the difficulties we have of calling them into emergencies. But so this person's asked about medics.
Yes, I was just about to move on.
And there are criteria that obviously it's better, and obviously you'd explain it much better than I will. But for instance, you can't have if a female patient requesting a male female practitioner, and then so forth, opposite gender. So there are criteria that are
definitely. I mean, in the West, we're quite fortunate that it's not just Muslims, but it's also other communities, Jewish, Christian, Hindu, Sikh, and even atheists, that would prefer a same gender doctor to diagnose them. So they understand it's a sensitive topic, and they understand that people would prefer, patients would prefer same gender nurses and doctors.
One isn't available,
and if one isn't available, according to the Islamic law, it is okay for them. For once again, it's better if it's a female diagnosing a male. That's perfectly fine. I mean, if they're just discussing and they're talking, if there needs to be a physical inspection, it's better to bring in a male. But if not, the female is allowed to, on the basis of medicine and the basis of treatment, it is allowed. Once again, gloves should be worn, and it goes without saying, but there has to be discrepancy, and there has to be no sharing of information of what I saw and
Right.
you know.
So
Describing.
while the medicine has a sort of a clause there, policing doesn't, whereas it's upholding the law.
Yes.
There is no clause there to say, okay, there are situations of exemption to the main law.
I guess because at the time when we look at in the early Islam and you look at the scholars and the early scholars and what they have deduced from the Hadith and the Quran, and the Riwayat, there was probably less females in policing roles and in roles of authority, such as the military and such. But there were more in terms of nursing and of treatment and of medicine. So I think because of that reason alone, that there were more females involved in medicine and involved in treatment, that there was more rules pertaining to them at present. Who knows, inshallah, when the Imam comes, may Allah hasten his great parents, there will be more rules in regards to women's roles in policing and women's roles in military and so forth.
Because it's interesting, because I think, you know, obviously, like you said, you know, women's traditional occupations, medicine, you know, teaching. But as we evolve, and you know, in these countries, we have an opportunity, world over. It's not something that's just limited to the West. But having said that, you know, there could be a woman who's a widow, for instance, and she has no option. You know, she wants to find a decent job, and it could be that the policing is an option. You know, and it's very difficult to, you know, limit yourself and then say, well, okay, I can't do that because there are restrictions on certain things.
This is why, you know, especially when it came to the military, you have to refer back to your marja. And I said that specifically because there are, like you said, circumstances where women need to go and earn bread or need to go and make money. And maybe this is the only way they can. And there may be exemptions for them. So it's not to say that there's under no circumstances women are not allowed in these places. They are under certain conditions, and certain exemptions are present. But I think the main thing is to understand the Islamic rulings and the Islamic laws and why they're there, and why there is a sense of segregation between the genders.
I just want to quickly touch on, I don't know if Ali, you have a question yourself, but
No.
I was going to ask about the medics that in the UK now required to have arms uncovered, elbow down, due to hygiene, infections across the hospitals and things. Islamically, if that's the law of the country, what's
I do believe that, you know, there are certain areas where the hijab becomes very, very difficult for a lady to observe in their field of work. For whatever reason, health and safety, flammable, you know, it could get caught in machinery and so forth. None of these are excuses or exemptions. None of the Maraja have allowed women to stop observing the hijab because of, you know, the health and safety risks. So therefore, even in that situation where, let's say for health and safety reasons, we have to uncover your sleeves. This is not an excuse for a lady.
If the alternative is dismissal of your role, what would they do then?
I'm sure you can't be dismissed for that, and I'm sure there is an alternative. We live in a country where there's a lot of lobbying, a lot of understanding, a lot of, you know, meeting in the middle.
Alternatives,
maybe, a lot of alternatives.
For example, I think with women, what they'll do is they'll have not a loose fitting, but they'll have a really tight.
Like a sleeve.
It's like a sleeve,
a really tight
sleeve.
sleeve.
I think that's
because I remember I was visiting a friend in hospital a couple of years ago, and there was a lady, and obviously I don't know which sex she was from, but she was wearing a hijab, but she was a nurse on the ward, and she had her arms uncovered. And
I mean, if it's a female-only ward, then you get away with that. But if there are male present, then
doctors will be coming in and out. There'll always be some male
you'd
around.
have to, you know, look for an alternative.
Sayed, fascinating discussions as always.
Thank you very much.
Me and Zara have definitely enjoyed your stay with us over the last 10
thank
episodes.
you so much.
Thank you very much
we've
for having me.
And so much in terms of the jurisprudential side of Muharram and Safar. Thank you very much for your time.
I'd like to thank my teachers and those I had to go to, you know, discuss and research, and also Sayyid Sadiq Hafadullah, who, you know, was the basis of all the ahkam rulings that I portrayed.
Inshallah, you are able to share that knowledge on with the youngsters as well.
Inshallah.
And the chain continues. And thank you for your time through these mornings that we've been blessed to have. That's all we've got time for today, and been an absolutely amazing session today, and obviously our previous talks that we've had. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me.
Please do keep us in your du'as. It's been really insightful, I know, for both. You know, inshallah, for our viewers as well, and for us as well. So thank you so much.
Yeah, just to bring it all to a close, we thank the viewers for your participation, as well as We hope that from Imam Hussein TV's perspective that you've benefited from every single aspect when it comes to Muharram and Safar. What we wanted, the whole idea, the ethos behind that was to give you every aspect of Muharram, a better understanding of that. So from a jurisprudential point of view, from a social point of view with the Dear Masuma segments, from a poetic and a recitation point of view, I had many interviews with Nouri Sardar and many other reciters as well. So we hope that you benefited, and on behalf of Imam Hussein TV, we'd like to thank the many different speakers and reciters that took part in the shows, as well as the backroom staff as well for their hard work in ensuring that you get the best of the best when it comes to every aspect of Muharram and Safar. And as we are during the time of Arba'in as well, we'd like to pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept what little that we can offer in the way of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And with that, Zara, any last comments? Or
no, you said it perfectly.
Okay,
thank you so much.
And with that, from myself and Zara, thank you very much. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
On one side I beloved, whilst I want to be loved by one never unloved, Hussein. With everything patient, with your love impatient, daily with everything patient, with your love impatient, daily I lament, daily I lament, Hussein.